Today, we are going to learn the history of Japan. Japan is one of the most fascinating countries in the world. It is a land of ancient traditions, powerful warriors, beautiful culture, strong discipline, advanced technology, and deep national pride. When we think about Japan today, we may think about Tokyo, bullet trains, anime, robots, cars, discipline, and modern life. But Japan did not become this powerful in one day. Behind modern Japan, there is a long story. A story of ancient people, a story of emperors, a story of samurai warriors, a story of isolation, a story of war, a story of rebuilding, a story of courage, culture, discipline, and survival. You should listen till the end because the history of Japan teaches us how a small island nation became one of the most respected and advanced countries in the world. This story will help you understand Japan better, and it will also help you improve your English listening, vocabulary, and knowledge. So listen carefully, learn step by step, and enjoy this journey through Japanese history. If you enjoy simple, interesting, and educational videos like this video, subscribe to the channel and keep learning with us every day. Part 1. Ancient Japan and the birth of Japanese civilization. The story of Japan begins with its geography. Japan is an island country in East Asia. It is made of many islands, but the four main islands are Honshu, Hokkaido, Kyushu, and Shikoku. Because Japan is surrounded by the sea, its history developed in a special way. The sea protected Japan from many outside invasions. But the sea also connected Japan to nearby countries like China and Korea. This is important because Japan learned many things from other cultures, but it also created its own unique identity. In ancient times, the first people of Japan lived close to nature. They hunted animals, they caught fish, they collected plants, they made tools from stone, bone, and wood. This early period is called the Jomon period. The Jomon people are famous for their pottery. Their pottery was some of the oldest in the world. They made clay pots with beautiful rope-like patterns. The word Jomon means cord-marked, because their pottery had marks that looked like ropes. The Jomon people did not live like modern people. They did not have cities, trains, schools, or written books, but they understood nature. They knew how to survive. They lived in small communities. They built simple houses. They respected the land, the forests, the rivers, the mountains, and the sea. This connection with nature became very important in Japanese culture. Even today, Japanese culture shows deep respect for nature. Mountains, trees, rivers, seasons, flowers, and animals have special meaning in Japanese life. After the Jomon period came the Yayoi period. This was a very important turning point. During the Yayoi period, rice farming came to Japan. Rice changed everything. Before rice farming, people mostly hunted, fished, and collected food. But when people learned to grow rice, they could settle in one place for a longer time. They built villages. They stored food. They developed better tools. They started working together in larger groups. Rice farming also created social differences. Some people became more powerful because they controlled land, food, and water. Slowly, leaders appeared. Families and clans became stronger. Villages became more organized. This was the beginning of a more structured society in Japan. During this time, metal tools also became important. People used bronze and iron. These tools helped farming, fighting, and daily life. Japan was slowly moving from small, simple communities toward stronger political groups. Then came the Kofun period. The word Kofun means ancient tomb. This period is famous for large burial mounds built for powerful leaders. Some tombs were shaped like a keyhole. These large tombs show that Japan had strong rulers and organized society. If a society can build huge tombs, it means there were leaders, workers, planning, and power. During the Kofun period, one powerful clan began to rise. This clan became connected with the Yamato state. The Yamato rulers became very important in Japanese history. They helped create the foundation of Japan's imperial system. The Japanese emperor later became a central symbol of the country. According to Japanese tradition, the emperor's family has a very ancient origin. The emperor was not only a political leader, the emperor also had spiritual importance. This brings us to another important part of ancient Japan: Shinto. Shinto is the native spiritual tradition of Japan. Shinto is deeply connected with nature. It teaches respect for kami. Kami can be understood as spirits or sacred powers found in nature, ancestors, mountains, rivers, trees, and special places. Shinto helped shape Japanese culture for many centuries. It taught people to respect purity, nature, ancestors, and harmony. Even today, Shinto shrines are important in Japan. People visit shrines to pray, give thanks, and connect with tradition. But Japan was not completely separated from the outside world. China and Korea had a huge influence on early Japan. From these countries, Japan received many important ideas: writing, Buddhism, government systems, architecture, art, education, philosophy. Before Japan adopted Chinese writing, Japanese history was mostly passed through stories and traditions. But with writing, Japan could record laws, history, poetry, religion, and government information. This was a major step in civilization. Buddhism also came to Japan through Korea and China. At first, not everyone accepted Buddhism easily. Some people supported it, some people resisted it. But slowly, Buddhism became very important. It influenced Japanese art, temples, education, philosophy, and politics. Buddhism did not fully replace Shinto. Instead, Shinto and Buddhism lived together in Japanese culture for a long time. This is one of the special things about Japan. Japan often takes ideas from outside, but then changes them and makes them Japanese. Japan learned from China and Korea, but it did not simply copy everything. It adapted those ideas in its own way. Later, Japan built its first permanent capital in Nara. This period is called the Nara period. Nara became a center of government, religion, and culture. Buddhist temples became powerful. The government became more organized. Japan created laws and systems inspired by China. The emperor's court became more structured. This was a time when Japan was trying to become a strong and organized state. One of the most famous temples from this period is Todaiji. It became a symbol of Buddhist power and state support. Religion and government were closely connected. The rulers believed Buddhism could protect the country and bring peace. But as Buddhist temples became more powerful, the imperial court wanted more control. So the capital was later moved to Heian-kyo. Today, this place is known as Kyoto. This began the Heian period. The Heian period was one of the most beautiful cultural periods in Japanese history. The imperial court became famous for poetry, art, fashion, literature, and elegant lifestyle. Noble families became very powerful. The most powerful family was the Fujiwara family. They controlled politics by arranging marriages with the imperial family. During this time, Japanese culture became more independent. Japan slowly reduced direct influence from China and developed its own style. Japanese writing improved. Poetry became popular. Court life became highly refined. Women writers also became important. One of the most famous works from this period is The Tale of Genji. It was written by Murasaki Shikibu. Many people consider it one of the world's first great novels. This shows that ancient Japan was not only about rulers and religion. It was also about art, emotions, beauty, and literature. But while the court in Kyoto enjoyed elegance and culture, another force was rising outside the capital: warrior families. These warriors would later become known as samurai. At first, samurai were protectors and fighters for powerful landowners. But slowly, they became stronger. The emperor and noble families still had status, but real military power began moving toward warrior clans. This was the beginning of a major change in Japanese history. Japan was about to enter the age of samurai. So Part 1 teaches us how Japanese civilization began. It started with ancient people living close to nature. Then rice farming changed society. Powerful clans appeared. The Yamato state grew. Shinto shaped spiritual life. Buddhism and Chinese ideas entered Japan. Nara became a center of religion and government. Kyoto became a center of beauty, culture, and court life. And finally, the warrior class began to rise. This ancient foundation is very important, because to understand Japan, we must understand this balance: nature and discipline, tradition and change, outside influence and Japanese identity, beauty and power. peaceful culture and warrior strength. Part 2. The Age of Samurai, Shoguns, and Warrior Japan. After the peaceful and elegant world of the Heian court, Japan began to change. In Kyoto, nobles still enjoyed poetry, art, music, and beautiful court life. But outside the capital, the country was becoming more dangerous. Powerful landowners needed protection. Government control became weaker in many areas. Different families started fighting for land, power, and influence. Because of this, warriors became more important. These warriors were called samurai. At first, samurai were not the rulers of Japan. They were fighters who served powerful families. They protected land. They guarded important people. They fought battles. They followed their leaders with loyalty. Slowly, samurai became stronger than the court nobles. This was a major turning point in Japanese history. Japan was moving from the age of court culture to the age of warrior rule. Two powerful warrior families became especially important: the Taira clan and the Minamoto clan. These two clans competed for power. Their rivalry led to a famous conflict called the Genpei War. This war happened in the late 1100s. It was a battle between the Taira and Minamoto families for control of Japan. The Minamoto clan finally won. Their leader, Minamoto no Yoritomo, became one of the most important figures in Japanese history. He created a new type of government. This government was called the shogunate. A shogunate was a military government ruled by a shogun. The emperor still existed. The emperor was still respected. The emperor remained an important symbol of Japan. But real political and military power moved to the shogun. This is very important to understand. For many centuries, Japan had both an emperor and a shogun. The emperor was the traditional and spiritual symbol. The shogun was the real military ruler. Minamoto no Yoritomo created the Kamakura shogunate. It was based in Kamakura, not Kyoto. This showed that power was moving away from the old court capital. The samurai were now becoming the ruling class. Under the Kamakura shogunate, Japan became more military and disciplined. Samurai values became important. Loyalty was important. Courage was important. Honor was important. Discipline was important. Service to one's lord was important. A samurai was expected to be brave, obedient, and ready to sacrifice his life. Over time, these values became connected with the idea of Bushido. Bushido means the way of the warrior. It was not one simple written rule in the beginning. It developed slowly over time, but it became a powerful idea in Japanese culture. Bushido taught that a warrior should live with loyalty, courage, self-control, honor, and duty. The samurai became more than soldiers. They became a symbol of discipline and identity. But samurai life was not only about fighting. Many samurai also learned poetry, calligraphy, strategy, manners, and philosophy. A good samurai had to control the body and the mind. This is one reason samurai history is so interesting. It was a mix of war and discipline, power and self-control, violence and beauty, sword fighting and poetry. This balance became part of Japanese culture. During the Kamakura period, Japan faced a huge danger from outside: the Mongol Empire. At that time, the Mongols had one of the largest empires in world history. They had conquered many lands across Asia and Europe. Kublai Khan, the Mongol ruler of China, wanted Japan to submit to him. Japan refused. So the Mongols tried to invade Japan. The first invasion came in 1274. The Mongol army arrived with many soldiers and ships. The Japanese samurai fought bravely. But the Mongols used different fighting methods. They used large groups. They used powerful weapons. They used explosives. This was very different from the samurai style of fighting. The Japanese were in danger. But then a storm damaged the Mongol ships. The invasion failed. The Mongols returned again in 1281 with an even larger force. This was one of the biggest threats Japan had ever faced. Again, the Japanese prepared to fight. And again, a powerful storm destroyed many Mongol ships. The invasion failed. The Japanese called these storms kamikaze. Kamikaze means divine wind. Many people believe the storms were sent by the gods to protect Japan. These failed Mongol invasions became very important in Japanese history. They strengthened Japan's sense of special protection. They also showed the bravery of the samurai. But the wars were expensive. The samurai fought hard, but there was no new land to reward them with. This created dissatisfaction. Many warriors became unhappy with the Kamakura government. Over time, the Kamakura shogunate became weaker. Eventually, it fell. After the Kamakura period came the Ashikaga shogunate, also called the Muromachi period. This period was ruled by the Ashikaga family. The Ashikaga shoguns were based in Kyoto. This period had both beauty and conflict. On one side, Japanese culture became very rich. Zen Buddhism became important. Zen taught simplicity, meditation, discipline, and calmness. Zen influenced samurai thinking. It also influenced Japanese art, gardens, tea ceremony, painting, and architecture. The tea ceremony became a meaningful cultural practice. It was not only about drinking tea. It was about calmness, respect, beauty, silence, and attention to small details. Japanese gardens also became famous during this time. They were designed to create peace, balance, and reflection. No theater developed as a serious and artistic form of performance. Ink painting, poetry, and architecture also became important. So the Muromachi period was a time of great culture. But politically, Japan became unstable. The shogun became weaker. Powerful regional lords became stronger. These regional lords were called daimyo. A daimyo controlled land and had samurai warriors under him. As the central government weakened, many daimyo started fighting each other. This led to a long period of civil war. One of the biggest turning points was the Onin War. The Onin War began in 1467. It started as a conflict over who should become the next shogun, but it grew into a larger war. Kyoto was badly damaged. The authority of the shogunate became much weaker. After the Onin War, Japan entered the Sengoku period. Sengoku means warring states. This was one of the most dramatic and exciting periods in Japanese history. Japan was divided. Many daimyo fought for power. Castles were built, armies grew, samurai battles became common, alliances changed, families rose and fell. This was a time of danger, ambition, strategy, and war. During the Sengoku period, Japan did not have one strong central ruler. Different warlords controlled different regions. Each daimyo wanted more land and power. Some were cruel. Some were brilliant. Some were great military leaders. Some were smart politicians. This period produced some of the most famous names in Japanese history. One of them was Oda Nobunaga. Oda Nobunaga was a powerful and ambitious leader. He wanted to unify Japan. Unify means bring different parts together under one rule. Nobunaga was not afraid to use new ideas. When Portuguese traders arrived in Japan in the 1500s, they brought firearms. Guns changed Japanese warfare. Traditional samurai fighting was based on swords, bows, horses, and personal skill. But guns made battles different. Nobunaga understood the power of firearms. He used guns effectively in battle. This helped him defeat powerful enemies. Nobunaga also challenged old religious and military powers that stood against him. He was strong, strategic, and sometimes ruthless. He began the process of unifying Japan, but he did not complete it. He was betrayed by one of his own generals and died in 1582. After Nobunaga's death, another great leader continued the work. His name was Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Hideyoshi had a very interesting life. He was not born into a powerful samurai family. He came from a humble background, but through intelligence, loyalty, courage, and ambition, he rose to the highest level of power. This makes his story very inspiring. Hideyoshi completed much of the unification of Japan. He defeated rival daimyo. He created stronger control over the country. He also introduced important policies. One famous policy was the sword hunt. This meant that weapons were taken away from farmers and common people. The goal was to make society more stable and prevent rebellion. Hideyoshi wanted a clear social order. Samurai would be warriors, farmers would farm, craftsmen would make goods, merchants would trade. He tried to organize society so people stayed in their roles. Hideyoshi also built great castles and showed the power of unified Japan. But he made one major mistake. He launched invasions of Korea in the 1590s. His larger dream may have been to conquer China. But these invasions became costly and destructive. Japanese forces fought in Korea, but the campaigns failed after years of war. After Hideyoshi died, Japan again faced a power struggle. The next great figure was Tokugawa Ieyasu. Ieyasu was patient, intelligent, and strategic. He waited for the right moment. After Hideyoshi's death, different leaders fought for control. The most important battle was the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600. This battle decided the future of Japan. Tokugawa Ieyasu won. After his victory, he became the most powerful man in Japan. In 1603, he became shogun. This began the Tokugawa shogunate. It is also called the Edo period. The capital of Tokugawa power was Edo. Today, Edo is known as Tokyo. This was the beginning of a new age. After many years of civil war, Japan finally entered a long period of peace. The age of constant samurai battles was ending. The age of Tokugawa order was beginning. This is important because the samurai had spent centuries fighting. But during the Edo period, they slowly became administrators, officials, and educated members of society. They still carried swords. They still had high status. But Japan was becoming more peaceful and organized. So Part 2 shows us the rise of warrior Japan. The samurai began as protectors. Then they became rulers. The shogun became the real military leader. Japan faced the Mongol invasions and survived. Culture grew through Zen, tea ceremony, gardens, art, and theater. Then the country fell into civil war during the Sengoku period. Powerful leaders like Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu fought to unify Japan. Finally, Ieyasu created a strong new government. Japan moved from chaos to order, from civil war to peace, from scattered warlords to a united country. This period teaches us that Japanese history is not only about war. It is also about discipline, loyalty, strategy, patience, culture, and transformation. The samurai age shaped Japan deeply. It gave Japan powerful ideas about honor, duty, self-control, and respect. Part 3. The Edo period, Japan's isolation, and the Meiji Restoration. After Tokugawa Ieyasu created the Tokugawa shogunate, Japan entered a new period called the Edo period. This period lasted for more than 250 years. It was one of the most important periods in Japanese history because Japan finally became peaceful after many years of war. For a long time, different warlords had fought for power. Samurai had lived on battlefields. Castles had been built for war. Families had risen and fallen. But under the Tokugawa shogunate, Japan became more stable. The government became stronger, the country became more organized, and daily life became more peaceful. The Tokugawa rulers wanted one thing above everything else: order. They did not want Japan to fall back into civil war. So they created a strict system to control the country. The shogun was the real ruler. The emperor still existed in Kyoto, and people respected him, but political power stayed with the shogun in Edo. Edo later became Tokyo. This is why the Edo period is also connected to the rise of Tokyo. During this time, Japan had a clear social system. At the top were the samurai. They were the warrior class. But because Japan was peaceful, samurai did not fight as much as before. Many samurai became officials, administrators, teachers, and servants of the government. They still had status. They still carried swords. They still followed ideas of honor and duty. But their daily life changed. Below the samurai were farmers. Farmers were very important because they produced rice. Rice was not only food. Rice was also connected to wealth and taxes. The government depended on farmers because rice supported the whole system. Below farmers were craftsmen. Craftsmen made useful things like tools, clothes, weapons, paper, pottery, and household items. Below craftsmen were merchants. This is interesting because merchants were officially lower in the social system. But in real life, many merchants became rich. They made money through trade, business, and city life. This created a hidden change in Japanese society. The samurai had high status but often had financial problems. Merchants had low status but sometimes had great wealth. This created tension, but it also helped cities grow. One important system during the Edo period was called Sankin Kotai. This system forced daimyo, the regional lords, to spend time in Edo and time in their own lands. Their families often had to stay in Edo. This helped the shogun control the daimyo. Why? Because if a daimyo had to travel often and keep a large residence in Edo, it became expensive. This made it harder for daimyo to become too powerful and start rebellion. It also kept their families close to the shogun's control. This system helped maintain peace. But it also had another effect. Roads improved. Travel increased. Towns grew along travel routes. Inns, shops, and markets became busier. Culture spread across the country. So a political control system also helped economic and cultural growth. The Tokugawa government also controlled contact with the outside world. This policy is often called isolation. Japan did not completely close itself from the world, but it limited foreign contact very strictly. The shogunate was worried about foreign influence, especially from European powers and Christianity. Portuguese and Spanish missionaries had come to Japan earlier. Christianity had spread in some areas. Some Japanese leaders became worried that foreign religion could weaken their control or invite foreign domination. So the Tokugawa rulers banned Christianity and limited foreign trade. Most Japanese people were not allowed to travel abroad. Foreigners were mostly not allowed to enter Japan. Trade was restricted. The Dutch were allowed limited trade through a small island called Dejima near Nagasaki. Chinese traders also had limited contact. Korea and the Ryukyu Kingdom also had relations with Japan. So Japan was not completely cut off, but contact was controlled carefully. This period of limited foreign contact helped Japan maintain peace and independence. But it also meant Japan did not modernize in the same way as Western countries during that time. While Europe was going through scientific, industrial, and military changes, Japan stayed mostly under its traditional system. Still, the Edo period was not a dead period. It was full of culture, creativity, education, business, and city life. Edo became one of the largest cities in the world at that time. Cities like Osaka and Kyoto were also important. Osaka became a center of trade and commerce. Kyoto remained a center of tradition, art, and imperial culture. Edo became the political and cultural heart of the Tokugawa world. During the Edo period, Japanese culture became very rich. Kabuki theater became popular. Kabuki was colorful, dramatic, and entertaining. People enjoyed stories of love, loyalty, revenge, comedy, and tragedy. Another popular art form was ukiyo-e. Ukiyo-e means pictures of the floating world. These were woodblock prints showing actors, beautiful women, landscapes, city life, and famous places. One of the most famous Japanese artists from this tradition was Hokusai. His artwork, especially The Great Wave, became famous around the world. Literature also grew. People read stories, poetry, and popular books. Haiku became an important form of poetry. Matsuo Basho became one of Japan's most famous haiku poets. Haiku is short, simple, and deep. It often focuses on nature, seasons, and a small moment. This shows something beautiful about Japanese culture. Japan can express deep feeling through simple things. A flower, a sound, a season, a quiet road, a falling leaf. This love for simplicity and meaning became a powerful part of Japanese identity. Education also improved during the Edo period. Samurai studied Confucian ideas, history, writing, ethics, and government. Common people also became more educated than before. Temple schools taught children reading, writing, and calculation. This helped Japan later during modernization. When Japan needed to modernize quickly, its educated population became a great strength. But even though Edo Japan looked stable, problems were growing inside. The social system was strict. The economy was changing. Merchants were becoming richer. Samurai were sometimes becoming poorer. Farmers faced heavy taxes. Natural disasters and famines hurt people. Some people became unhappy with the government. Also, the outside world was changing quickly. Western countries had powerful ships, modern weapons, industrial machines, and expanding empires. They were entering Asia for trade and influence. China had already faced pressure from Western powers. Japan saw the danger. But Japan could not avoid the outside world forever. Then came a major turning point. In 1853, an American naval officer named Commodore Matthew Perry arrived in Japan with powerful ships. These ships are often called black ships because of their dark appearance and smoke. Perry wanted Japan to open its ports to American ships. Japan had a difficult choice. If Japan refused, it might face military attack. If Japan accepted, it would have to end much of its isolation. The Tokugawa shogunate was shocked. For more than 2 centuries, Japan had controlled foreign contact. Now powerful foreign ships were standing near Japan's door. Perry returned in 1854, and Japan signed a treaty with the United States. This opened some Japanese ports. Soon, other Western countries also made treaties with Japan. Many Japanese people felt these treaties were unequal. They felt Japan had been forced to accept foreign demands. This created anger. Some people blamed the Tokugawa shogunate. They believed the shogun was too weak to protect Japan. A powerful slogan appeared: "Respect the emperor, expel the barbarians." This meant many people wanted the emperor to become more important again, and they wanted foreign influence removed. But removing foreign powers was not easy. Japan had seen the strength of Western weapons and ships. Some Japanese leaders understood a hard truth. If Japan wanted to protect itself, it had to become modern. It had to learn from the West. It had to build a strong army. It had to build modern industries. It had to change its government. It had to become powerful before foreign countries could dominate it. This thinking led to one of the biggest changes in Japanese history: the Meiji Restoration. In 1868, the Tokugawa shogunate ended. Political power was returned in the name of the emperor. The young Emperor Meiji became the symbol of a new Japan. The word restoration means restoring power to the emperor. But the Meiji Restoration was not only about one person. It was a complete transformation of Japan. Japan moved from a feudal society to a modern nation-state. This was one of the fastest modernization movements in world history. The new leaders of Japan had a clear goal. They wanted a strong country and a strong military. They believed Japan must modernize quickly or it could be controlled by foreign powers. So they studied Western countries. They sent students and officials abroad. They learned about modern science, industry, education, law, military systems, government, and technology. But Japan did not simply copy the West blindly. Japan learned from outside and adapted those ideas to Japanese needs. This is a pattern in Japanese history. Japan learns from other cultures, but then makes those ideas Japanese. During the Meiji period, many major reforms happened. The old feudal domains were abolished. This means the local lands controlled by daimyo were replaced by a more centralized government. The samurai class lost many of its old privileges. Samurai could no longer remain the old warrior elite in the same way. Japan created a modern army based on conscription. Conscription means ordinary men could be required to serve in the military. This was a huge change. Before this, the samurai were the main warrior class. Now the modern Japanese state wanted a national army. This made many samurai angry. They felt they had lost their status, their income, and their purpose. Some samurai rebelled. One famous rebellion was the Satsuma Rebellion in 1877. It was led by Saigo Takamori, a famous samurai leader. But the modern government defeated the rebellion. This showed that the old samurai age was truly ending. Japan was becoming a modern state. Education became very important. The government built a national education system. Children were encouraged to study. Japan wanted people to become disciplined, educated, and loyal citizens. Schools helped spread modern knowledge. They also helped build national identity. Railways were built. Telegraph lines were built. Factories were created. Modern banks developed. Newspapers spread information. Modern postal systems improved communication. Western-style clothing, buildings, and ideas appeared in cities. Japan started changing quickly. Industrialization became one of the biggest parts of the Meiji period. Industrialization means using machines, factories, and modern production to create goods. Japan developed industries like textiles, shipbuilding, mining, steel, and later machinery. The government first supported many industries, and later private companies became powerful. Big business groups began to grow. These groups later became known as zaibatsu. They played a major role in Japan's economy. The Meiji leaders also changed the political system. Japan created a constitution in 1889. This constitution was influenced by Western models, especially Germany. Japan created a parliament called the Imperial Diet, but power was still limited. The emperor remained very important. The government was modern, but it was not a full democracy like some countries today. Still, this was a major step. Japan had moved from warrior rule to a modern constitutional state. Japan also worked to build a strong military. Why? Because the leaders knew that Western powers respected strength. They had seen how powerful countries treated weaker countries, so Japan wanted to avoid becoming a colony. To protect its independence, Japan believed it had to become strong. This led Japan to expand its influence. Japan fought China in the First Sino-Japanese War from 1894 to 1895. Japan won. This shocked many people because China had long been seen as a great civilization and powerful neighbor. Japan's victory showed that it had modernized successfully. Japan gained influence over Korea and took Taiwan. Then Japan fought Russia in the Russo-Japanese War from 1904 to 1905. Japan won again. This victory shocked the world. For the first time in modern history, an Asian country defeated a major European power in a large modern war. This made Japan proud and respected internationally. It also made Japan more confident and more ambitious. But this success also had a darker side. As Japan became stronger, it also became more imperial. Imperial means wanting to control other lands and peoples. Japan began expanding its power in East Asia. In 1910, Japan formally annexed Korea. This means Korea was placed under Japanese control. For Koreans, this period was painful and harsh. This is important to understand because history is not only about national pride. It is also about the suffering caused when powerful countries control others. Japan's modernization was impressive, but its expansion created deep pain in nearby countries. So the Meiji period had two sides. One side was inspiring. Japan protected its independence. It modernized quickly. It built schools, factories, railways, a modern army, and a strong economy. It showed the world that an Asian nation could become modern and powerful. But the other side was dangerous. Japan became more militarized. It began to believe expansion was necessary for greatness. This would later lead to bigger conflicts in the 20th century. Part 3 teaches us a powerful lesson. Peace can build culture. Isolation can protect a country for a time. But when the world changes, a nation must adapt. Japan stayed peaceful during the Edo period. It developed beautiful culture, strong cities, education, art, and discipline. But when Western powers arrived, Japan had to make a difficult choice. Stay the same and risk being dominated, or change quickly and become strong. Japan chose change. The Meiji Restoration transformed Japan from a feudal island country into a modern world power. It ended the old samurai system. It built a modern government. It created modern schools and industries. It built a powerful military. It opened Japan to the world. But this new power also created new dangers. Because when a country becomes powerful, it must choose how to use that power. For growth and peace. Or for control and war. Part 4. War, rebuilding, modern Japan, and Japan's place in the world today. In the 20th century, Japan became a strong modern nation. It had factories, railways, schools, a powerful army, and a strong navy. But Japan wanted more resources, power, and influence in Asia. This pushed Japan toward expansion and war. In the 1930s, Japan's military became very powerful. Japan took control of Manchuria and later entered a larger war with China. Many people suffered under Japanese rule, especially in China and Korea. This part of history is painful, but it teaches an important lesson. Power without wisdom and humanity can destroy lives. In 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. This brought the United States into World War II. At first, Japan won many battles, but slowly the war turned against it. Japanese cities were bombed. Food became limited. Families suffered. In August 1945, atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The destruction was terrible. Many people died, and many others suffered for years. Japan surrendered on August 15, 1945. The war ended, and Japan was defeated. Its cities were destroyed. Its economy was broken. Its people were tired, hungry, and shocked. But Japan's story did not end there. After the war, Japan began rebuilding. A new constitution was created in 1947. The emperor became a symbol, and Japan became a democracy. Japan also chose peace through Article 9, which rejected war as a way to solve international problems. Instead of building power through war, Japan focused on education, industry, technology, and business. Factories were rebuilt, schools improved, workers became skilled, companies grew. From the 1950s to the 1970s, Japan's economy grew very fast. This was called the Japanese economic miracle. Japanese products became famous around the world. Cars, electronics, cameras, televisions, motorcycles, and video games made Japan a global economic power. Companies like Toyota, Honda, Sony, Panasonic, Nintendo, Canon, and Toshiba helped Japan rise again. Japan had lost a war and faced destruction, but it rebuilt through discipline, teamwork, education, and hard work. In 1964, Tokyo hosted the Olympic Games. This showed the world that Japan had returned as a peaceful and modern nation. Japan also introduced the Shinkansen, the bullet train, which became a symbol of speed and technology. Later, Japan faced new challenges. In the 1990s, its economic growth slowed after a financial bubble burst. Japan also began facing an aging population. In 2011, a major earthquake and tsunami caused terrible damage and led to the Fukushima nuclear disaster. But again, Japan showed courage, patience, and discipline. Today, Japan is one of the most respected countries in the world. It is known for technology, safety, politeness, cleanliness, education, creativity, anime, manga, video games, food, and beautiful traditions. Japan is a country where the past and future stand together. Ancient temples and modern skyscrapers, tea ceremony and advanced robots, samurai history and bullet trains. Japan's history teaches us that a nation can fall and rise again. It teaches us that power must be used with wisdom. It teaches us that discipline, education, and unity can rebuild a future.